Have you ever heard of krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed for dogs and cats? These three supplements can transform your pet's health when used in the right way, but they can also cause risks if applied without guidance. Get ready to learn how to offer more health, longevity, and quality of life to your dog or cat with clear information, without fads, and with a scientific basis. In the world of animal nutrition, three names have increasingly attracted the attention of owners concerned about the health of their dogs and cats: krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed. Although they seem like just a few more supplements among so many options available on the market, the truth is that each of them has unique properties that can transform a pet's well-being when used correctly. But here's the key point. The key is not just in offering, but in knowing when, how, and under what circumstances these resources can be powerful allies, and when they can, on the contrary, bring unnecessary risks. This balance is what separates the informed tutor from those who just follow fads. The scene that many pet owners know well begins on the shelf of a pet store or on the screen of a specialized website. Colorful jars, labels promising health, vitality, and longevity, words like superfood, immunity, and natural energy. In the midst of this avalanche of marketing, doubt is inevitable. Does my dog or cat really need it? And even more importantly, how to insert such supplements intelligently in a diet that should already be balanced, whether it is based on industrial feed or, as in the case of many more attentive tutors, on raw natural food of the BARF type? Among the supplements that generate the most curiosity is krill oil. Extracted from small, shrimp-like marine crustaceans, it's known as one of the richest and most bioavailable sources of omega-3 fatty acids. But what does bioavailable mean? It is the body's ability to absorb and actually use the nutrients ingested. In this regard, krill oil stands out from traditional fish oil because its chemical form, linked to phospholipids, facilitates absorption and enhances the effects. For dogs and cats, this translates into clear benefits: shinier coats, skin less prone to allergies, healthier joints, and even cognitive support, which is especially important in senior animals. However, the attentive tutor must ask himself, when is this supplement really necessary? Imagine a dog that has frequent hair loss, peeling skin, and constant itching. In many cases, such signs can be related to a deficiency of essential fatty acids. And here, krill oil can act as a quality booster. But if the animal already receives a diet rich in omega-3 sources, such as fresh sardines, salmon, or even flaxseed oil in small amounts, supplementation may be redundant. Even more, the excess supply does not guarantee additional benefits and can even overload the body. Therefore, the first rule is clear. It is never about the more, the merrier, but rather, when it is missing, adjust. Like krill oil, probiotics have gained more and more space in the pet universe. Unlike vitamins or minerals, they are not nutrients per se, but living organisms, beneficial bacteria capable of colonizing the gut and balancing the microbiota. The impact of this goes far beyond digestion. In dogs and cats, a healthy intestine means a more robust immune system, since much of the body's defense is born precisely in this region. It is not uncommon for an owner to notice, after a period of probiotic use, that the animal's feces become more consistent, that episodes of diarrhea decrease, and that even breath improves. However, here there are also important nuances. Offering probiotics to a healthy pet which has never had digestive disorders or has undergone treatments that affect the intestinal flora may not bring expressive results. It is when specific situations occur, such as the use of antibiotics, repeated episodes of diarrhea, or sudden changes in diet, that the role of probiotics becomes decisive. Finally, the third element of this trio appears: seaweed. Often neglected, they carry an impressive variety of nutrients in their composition, including minerals such as iodine, iron, magnesium, and calcium, as well as natural antioxidants. In the diet of dogs and cats, its use must be careful, because precisely this richness can be both beneficial and harmful. An example is iodine, which is essential for proper thyroid function. Deficiency can cause serious problems, but excess can also compromise health. Therefore, when we think of algae, we are not talking about a free-for-all supplement, but a strategic resource that must be applied in very specific doses. To understand the importance of balance, just imagine the following scenario. A cat fed only with common industrial food will hardly have access to certain micronutrients in their natural form, and in this context, small doses of algae can fill gaps. In a dog that receives BARF with a variety of meats, offal, and bones, the risk of exaggeration when adding algae without guidance grows exponentially. The result can be the opposite of what is expected: hormonal imbalance, digestive disorders, and, in more serious cases, silent poisoning that only reveals itself after weeks. The meeting point between krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed is precisely this. They are all powerful tools, but they require knowledge to be applied safely. None of them is a magic pill that will solve all of a pet's health problems, but together they can act as a strategic support trio, as long as they are used at the right time and in the right way. The tutor, who understands this principle, starts to see animal nutrition not as a list of fads, but as a living science, in which each decision directly influences the longevity and well-being of the animal. And it is exactly this journey of knowledge that we are going to explore step by step. From krill oil and its deep action on cells, to probiotics and their invisible but vital role in the gut, to seaweed and the strength of its minerals hidden in the ocean. Each of these elements holds secrets that can both save and compromise the health of dogs and cats, and understanding these details is the key to making conscious and safe choices. To better understand the importance of each supplement, it is essential to observe how they act in concrete situations of the daily lives of dogs and cats. Let's start with krill oil. The difference from traditional fish oil is not only in the type of omega-3, but also in the presence of a powerful natural antioxidant called astaxanthin, which is responsible for krill's reddish color. This antioxidant has intense anti-inflammatory action, protects cells against oxidative stress, and in elderly animals can slow down degenerative processes. This is reflected in something that any tutor notices: more energy to play, greater willingness to walk, and even more liveliness in the look. In large breed dogs predisposed to joint problems, krill oil can be an ally to reduce inflammation and improve mobility. In cats, known for their tendency to kidney and heart problems, correct supplementation can favor vascular health and delay complications. However, there is a critical point that needs to be understood. There is no single and universal dosage. The size of the animal, its weight, age, diet, and health history directly interfere with the need. Therefore, the responsible owner should not offer krill oil on his own in arbitrary quantities, but seek advice from a veterinarian who can indicate the appropriate dose. Another important aspect is the quality of the supplement. Not all krill oil available on the market is created equal. The purity of the product, the form of extraction, and the absence of contaminants are determining factors. Low-cost products often undergo refinement processes that reduce their effectiveness or have unwanted residues. Therefore, choosing a supplement from a reliable source is as essential as deciding on supplementation itself. After all, when we talk about the health of dogs and cats, there is no room for unnecessary risks. Moving on to probiotics, it is necessary to understand that we are not talking about a single type of beneficial bacteria, but a set of species that act on different fronts in the body. Among the most used in pets are those of the genus Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, recognized for their ability to balance the intestinal flora and inhibit harmful bacteria. In stressful situations, such as moving house, long trips, or introducing a new animal into the environment, probiotics help stabilize the body, reducing episodes of diarrhea or vomiting. In puppies, especially, they can be decisive for the development of a more solid immune system. Imagine a dog that has just come out of antibiotic treatment. These medications, while necessary in many situations, do not distinguish between harmful and beneficial bacteria. The result is a fragile intestine, prone to imbalances and opportunistic infections. At this point, the introduction of probiotics is like repopulating a devastated city, bringing back the good inhabitants who regulate the environment. In cats suffering from constipation or chronic diarrhea, probiotics may be the missing link to reestablish regularity. However, as in the case of krill oil, the choice of product must be judicious. It is not enough to take a human probiotic and offer it to the pet. The formulation needs to be specific, with strains adapted to the body of dogs and cats, in addition to having proof of efficacy. Another point that needs to be addressed is the myth that probiotics are harmless. Although they are generally safe, their indiscriminate use can mask symptoms of more serious problems. If a dog has persistent diarrhea, for example, this could be a sign of worms, food intolerances, or inflammatory bowel diseases. In these cases, the probiotic may even temporarily improve the condition, but it does not solve the root of the problem. That is why veterinary evaluation should never be left aside. We then come to seaweed. They may look like simple sea vegetables, but they hide a composition that borders on the extraordinary. Among the types most used in pet supplements are Ascophyllum nodosum and Spirulina. The first is famous for its high concentration of iodine and for helping in the oral health of dogs, helping to reduce the formation of tartar and improving breath. Spirulina, on the other hand, is valued for its nutritional density, containing easily assimilated proteins, chlorophyll, and antioxidants. For animals that go through periods of waning immunity or face chronic diseases, small doses can serve as a natural booster. But once again, dosage is the sore point. Excess iodine in dogs and cats can lead to thyroid disorders, resulting in symptoms such as sudden weight loss, hair loss, or hyperactivity. Therefore, when we talk about algae, it is no exaggeration to say that the line between benefit and risk is extremely thin. The choice should always be individualized, taking into account the animal's history and the rest of its diet. In a practical scenario, imagine an owner who adopts the BARF diet and decides to enrich the dog's meals with seaweed without any kind of guidance. In a few weeks, the animal can develop signs of endocrine imbalance, confusing the owner and even the veterinarian himself. It is exactly this type of error that shows how potent supplements, if used incorrectly, can compromise the health they are supposed to protect. On the other hand, when used wisely, krill oil, probiotics, and algae form a support tripod capable of visibly improving the quality of life of pets. More disposition, stronger immunity, healthier coat, and prevention of degenerative diseases are some of the possible results. And it is precisely this fine line between benefit and risk, between knowledge and improvisation, that differentiates attentive tutors from those who end up just reproducing practices without criteria. As we dive deeper into the practice of supplementing with krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed, it's necessary to understand not only what they offer, but also the circumstances that call for caution. The responsible tutor should always see these resources as precision tools, not as generic solutions. In the case of krill oil, an often overlooked point is the risk of drug interaction. Because it is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, it has a slight anticoagulant effect. This means that in dogs or cats that need to undergo surgery or that already use medications that affect coagulation, the use must be carefully evaluated. In addition, animals with a history of pancreatitis need extra attention, as any additional fat in the diet can overload the pancreas. It is not uncommon for an owner, when seeking benefits for the dog's coat, to end up without realizing it, aggravating a silent problem. This is a classic example of how a lack of guidance can turn a positive intention into a concrete risk. Another essential detail is the form of administration. Krill oil is often offered in soft gels or liquid oil. For medium and large dogs, the capsules can be easily hidden in pieces of food. But for cats or small dogs, it is often preferable to opt for liquid formats, which allow for more precise dose adjustments. Acceptance, however, varies. Some animals reject the characteristic taste, and forcing ingestion should never be the solution. A gradual adaptation, mixing small amounts into the food, is the safest strategy. In the universe of probiotics, another aspect that deserves attention is the time of use. Although many people imagine that they should be offered continuously, the reality is that, in many cases, their use should be temporary. After periods of antibiotics, diet changes, or episodes of stress, the gut may need extra support, but once the balance is restored, continuous supplementation is not always necessary. Some veterinarians recommend short cycles of probiotics, interspersed with periods of non-use, precisely to allow the animal's body to maintain its natural balance without depending on the supplement permanently. In addition, not all probiotics resist the acidic environment of the stomach of dogs and cats. Therefore, choosing products with encapsulated or protected strains is essential to ensure that the bacteria arrive alive in the intestine, where they will actually act. This is technical information that many tutors are unaware of, but it makes all the difference between spending money on something ineffective or getting real results. When we talk about seaweed, another delicate factor comes into play: the origin. The ocean is an environment of nutritional richness, but also of pollution. Algae harvested in regions contaminated by heavy metals can carry serious risks to the pet's health. The tutor who wants to offer this supplement needs, therefore, to choose brands that prove the purity of the product through laboratory tests. This is one of the reasons why higher quality supplements have higher costs, but also deliver safety. The practical application of algae goes beyond direct supplementation. Some owners use algae powder to sanitize their dogs' mouths, adding small amounts to their food in order to improve oral health. Studies show that certain compounds present in algae reduce the formation of bacterial biofilm, which can, in the long run, decrease the incidence of tartar. However, this practice should only be done with minimal doses, specific for pets, never in an improvised way. Another important point is that dogs and cats do not share exactly the same needs. Cats, for example, have a peculiar metabolism and do not metabolize certain compounds in the same way as dogs. This means that a dose considered safe for dogs may be inappropriate for felines. A classic example is excess iodine in cats, which can cause hyperthyroidism, a common and debilitating condition. This detail reinforces the idea that while krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed are valuable resources, they should never be offered as a direct copy of human or even dog-to-cat supplementation. In the clinical scenario, veterinarians have observed cases in which correct supplementation makes a significant difference. Senior dogs that move more easily again after using krill oil, cats that overcome repeated episodes of diarrhea with the support of probiotics, dogs that reduce bad breath and gum inflammation thanks to the controlled use of algae. These stories are increasingly common and bring to light an essential point. When well applied, these supplements not only treat symptoms, but also prevent future complications. But there are also examples of the opposite. There are reports of owners who, by exaggerating the dose of seaweed, have seen their dogs show behavioral changes and weight loss with no apparent cause, only to find out later that the excess iodine was affecting the thyroid. Others who offered probiotics without criteria and were slow to realize that, in fact, the animal's diarrhea was linked to a food intolerance to chicken or gluten present in snacks. These are clear alerts that information and professional monitoring are indispensable. Thus, the great lesson of using krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed lies not only in the benefits they offer, but in the owner's ability to understand limits, identify real needs, and make informed choices. The path to animal health is not paved with improvisations, but with conscious decisions that unite love and responsibility. When it comes to supplements for dogs and cats, such as krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed, the temptation to believe in quick fixes is great, but the tutor who really seeks to offer the best understands that a pet's health is built on layers: a good diet, regular exercise, veterinary follow-up, and only then, additional resources, such as supplements. And it is in this order of priorities that one should think. Krill oil, with its fatty acids and antioxidants, is especially useful in aging phases, skin allergies, joint diseases, and as cognitive support. But it only makes sense when there is a clear and well-identified need. Using it excessively, or without criteria, is wasting a precious resource, and in some cases, exposing the pet to risks. Probiotics, in turn, stand out in moments of vulnerability of the body. After antibiotics, during episodes of stress or in gastrointestinal diseases, they are invisible allies that act directly on the internal balance, strengthening immunity in a natural way, but they are also not the universal answer. Offering probiotics without understanding the cause of symptoms such as diarrhea or constipation can delay important diagnoses. Seaweed, on the other hand, are true deposits of minerals and antioxidants. If used with caution, they can have benefits for oral health, immunity, and metabolism, but its potential also demands respect. The line that separates balance from excess is very thin, especially in relation to iodine. Therefore, only a minimum dose calculated for each animal can bring real benefits without compromising health. The attentive tutor should understand that none of these supplements is a substitute for a quality diet. They are complements, not pillars. A dog or cat that already receives a balanced diet, rich in adequate protein, vitamins, and minerals, will probably only need these resources in specific situations. In animals fed more restricted diets or that have chronic conditions, the use can make all the difference. In practice, the best way to approach this topic is always to observe the pet as a unique individual. There is no universal rule. There is no magic dose. There is no supplement that works for everyone in the same way. What exists is the need for careful analysis, constant observation, and professional monitoring. The tutor who understands this logic starts to act more consciously. Instead of being carried away by promises of flashy packaging, he learns to question, does my pet really need it? What is the expected benefit? Is there any risk involved? Has the veterinarian evaluated his health condition? These simple questions can avoid mistakes that would cost you not only financially but also emotionally, as nothing is more painful for a pet owner than seeing a pet suffer from wrong decisions. And here's the big takeaway. Krill oil, probiotics, and seaweed are like keys that open specific doors to animal health. In some cases, they will be indispensable. In others, irrelevant. The secret is to know when to use each one, how to apply it safely, and what signs to watch for on a daily basis. Because at the end of the day, taking care of a pet is much more than offering love. It's also taking responsibility for seeking knowledge and making smart choices. A dog with more energy to play with, a cat with a silky coat, an elderly person who regains some mobility, a puppy who overcomes digestive difficulties. These are all real examples of what happens when supplements are used judiciously. But the opposite story also exists and serves as a warning. Therefore, the correct decision will never be made in a hurry, but with patience, information, and respect for the animal's individuality. With that, we close the circle. From the deep sea where krill lives, to the microscopic colonies of probiotics that inhabit the gut, to the algae that grow silently in the oceans, each of these elements holds immense potential. But true power only manifests itself when guided by conscious choices. And that's the final message. The health of a dog or cat should never be treated as fashion, but as science applied with love.